Hello. So this is April 13th lesson for the Algebra 1 class. You need these notes, the 8FB5 Day 1 notes. If you do not have a printer, that's fine. Just go ahead and write these out in a notebook or a piece of paper so that you can reference back to them if you need to. So it says the graph of a linear function is a line. The slope of the line can provide useful information about the functional relationships between the two types of quantities. And then it wants you to fill in the blanks with the words. So it says a linear function whose graph has a blank slope is said to be a blank function. All right, so the first one we're going to put in that it has a zero slope, because when it has a zero slope, it's just going to be a horizontal line. So that means that it's going to be a constant function. All right, the next one that we're going to be talking about is a linear function that has a positive slope is said to be increasing, right? So we're going to write that in, positive. That means it's going upward. So that means that it is increasing. So this is just a little bit of review for you guys. And then finally of this part, it says the linear function of a graph that has a negative, go ahead and write that in. Slope is said to be a decreasing function, all right? Because if it's negative, that means that it is going down. So, as you are writing these out, if you need to, I have the completed ones on the Google Doc, so you can put them in there. Okay, so down below, what we're going to be doing is there are 4 situations, and we have to match them up with the graphs that they match with, okay? So the first one says a bathtub is filled at a constant rate of 1.75 gallons per minute. Well, if it's being filled, that means that the amount of water is increasing. So we need to choose one of the two on the bottom that are both increasing. This one would be constant, and this one would be decreasing. So it's not going to be either of these for A. It's got to be one of these two. Well, if I look at B, I see, or not B. If I look at D, I also see that D is being filled at a constant rate. However, this time it's being filled at a constant rate of 2.5. And in A, it's 1.75. So that means that the slope of D is going to be greater than the slope of A. So if I look at these two graphs, I can see that the slope of this one is greater. So that one should match up with the 2.5. So that one should be D. So then this one over here should be A. Okay? You guys can go ahead and write in an explanation for that, and that's fine. All right, the next two we have to deal with. B, a bathtub is drained at a constant rate. So drain means that the amount of water is decreasing. So I'm going to look for the one that has a negative slope, which is this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put in B there. And finally, C says that it contains 2.5 gallons. That means it's not changing. It's not increasing. It's not decreasing. So that's going to be this one because it's staying the exact same. So I'm going to go ahead and put C there. All right. In my notes, you will see that I will complete this. It's just for time's sake, I don't want to do that right now. All right, next page, it says read through each of the scenarios and sketch a graph of the function that models that situation. Okay, so it says a messenger service charges a flat rate of $4.95 to deliver a package regardless of the distance to the destination. All right, so if it's a flat rate, that means it's going to be staying the exact same. So we need to be drawing a horizontal line at that amount, which is $4.95, which is about 5. So I'm just going to be drawing a straight line about there. Pretend it's straight. All right, the next one. The range driving distance per charge of an electric car varies based on the average speed the car is driven. The initial rate of the electric car after a full charge is 400 miles. So that makes me think I'm probably going to have an initial value of 400 miles. However, the range is reduced by 20 miles every 10 mile per hour increase in the average speed. All right, so what that means is I'm going to be putting a dot at the y-intercept of 400. Then it's decreasing by 20 for each 10. So 400 minus 20 is 380. So I'm going to move over to where 10 would be and where 380 would be, which is going to be about here. All right, then I'm going to decrease by another 20. 380 minus 20 is 360. And I'm going to move over to another group of 10, which would be at 20. So 360 is going to be about here. You can keep going, but you can see that your line is going to end up looking something like that. All right, the bottom one on this page. It says, the graph below represents the total number of smartphones that are shipped by a retail store over the course of 50 days. Match each part of the graph A, B, and C to its verbal description. Explain the reasoning behind your choice. All right, so the first choice, it says that half of the factory workers went on strike and not enough smartphones were produced for the normal shipments. So if they half went on strike and only half were able to be produced, I'm looking for one that has a smaller slope. So if I look at section A and if I look at section C, I can see that this one is much steeper. So I'm thinking it's not that one. I'm thinking that it's probably C, but let's just read the rest of them to make sure. All right, so number 2 says the production schedule was normal and the smartphones were shipped at the retail store at a constant rate. So that means that they're just increasing at the same amount every single time. And then the next one says a defective electronic chip was found and the factory had to shut down. So no smartphones were shipped. All right, so what we're thinking is the no smartphones were shipped is obviously this part right here because it's not changing. So that one is going to be B down there. All right, the one with the less slope is the one when half of the people were not there. So that means the first one is going to be C. So that means the middle one has to be A. Okay, next page. Same deal here. We're going to be matching up these scenarios with the graphs. That makes sense. All right. A says this shows the change in a smartphone battery after a person uses the phone more frequently. All right. So if you start your phone right at when it's charged, it's probably at 100%, and then it's going to decrease from there. But it's actually not going to decrease at the same rate. It starts off really high, and then slowly it'll decrease, and then all of a sudden it crashes, right? All of a sudden you think you're at 20%, and then you look at it again and you're at 4%, right? So I think that that's going to match with this scenario right here where it's going slow and then it just crashes. So I'm going to put A here. All right, the next one says a child takes a ride on a swing. Well, if they're going on a swing, that means they're going up and down, up and down, up and down. So the one that matches with that one is this one where they go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. So I'm going to put B here. C, a savings account earns simple interest at a constant rate. So that means that it's increasing at a constant amount, right? They're getting extra money for the money that they have in the bank account. So that's going to be this one because it's increasing. And finally, D, a baseball has been hit at a Little League game. It's going to be this parabola, right? It goes up in the air and then it comes back down, just like when we learned about quadratics. So I'm going to put a D here. Wonderful. All right, next page. Once again, we're matching them up. All right, it says the tire pressure on Regina's car remains at 30 psi. So if it's staying the same, I'm thinking it's going to be this one right here because, see, it's staying the same right here at 30. So I'm going to go ahead and write in A. The next one, Carlita inflates her tire at a constant rate for 4 minutes. Well, inflate would mean that we're adding more air, so it should be increasing. So I'm going to think it goes with this one up top, B. Last one, air is leaking from Courtney's tire at a constant rate. So if it's leaking, that means it's decreasing, so it's going to be this one right here. So I'm going to choose C. All right. Wonderful. One last page. Okay, so on here it says, the figure below gives the depth of the water at Montauk Point, New York, for a day in November. How many tides took place on this day? How do you know? How many low tides took place on this day? And how much time elapsed between the tides? All right, so the high tides are obviously going to be when it's the highest amount of water. So I can see that that happened once, twice, 3 times. So my answer for that first question is going to be 3. B, how many low tides took place? Well, that's going to be the bottom of those functions. So right here and right here. So I'm going to write 2. And finally, the last question is asking how much time elapsed between the high tides. Well, here's a good high tide, and it looks like it happened at about 12 o'clock. And then this one over here looks like it happened at about, I don't know, maybe 22. So I would say that that would be about about 10 hours in between. Right there. Okay, the one below. For which interval of x is the function decreasing and nonlinear? All right, so that means it needs to be going down, and it's not going to be a straight line. Well, obviously this one right here, it's decreasing, but it's a straight line, so it's not that one. This one's increasing. This one is decreasing, and it's not a straight line. And this one is increasing, but it is a straight line. So I'm thinking it's going to be this section right here, which takes place between -2 and 0. So I'm going to be choosing B. Okay, last one. We're going to match up the situations. So it says Maria walks from school to her friend's house. She visits with her friend for a while, and then she walks the rest of the way home. All right, so she goes from school, so that's away, towards her house, stops at her friend's house for a while, and then comes back home. That's going to match up with this one because she's coming home from school, stays at her friend's house, and then walks all the way back home. So I'm going to put A here. B, Maria walks from home to school at a constant rate. So if she's at home, she's going to start at 0, and then she's going to move away. So that's going to be this one right here, B. Maria starts to walk from home to school. She stops to see whether she has her homework. She realizes she forgot it and runs home to get it. So she's walking, she stops to check for her homework, and then she runs home, C. Finally, D, Maria walks from school to home at a constant rate. So from school to home, that's going to be D. All right, the last page of the notes is the exit slip. If you want to complete it, that would be awesome. I'm going to complete it, and I will put it up on the Google Docs so you can check it on there, okay? If you have any questions, make sure you come see me during office hours from 1 to 3. All right, have a good one.